I still remember the sound of the fork hitting the plate. It was sharp, metallic, and it cut straight through the fake laughter that had been floating around the table. My mother looked at me with a coldness that could freeze bone. Then she said it. "You don't belong here." The words didn't shout. They didn't explode. They slid across the table like a knife. And every eye in the room shifted to me as if waiting for me to break. But I didn't. I smiled. Not because it didn't hurt, but because, for the first time in my life, I finally understood the truth. It wasn't me who didn't belong. It was the version of me she wanted to control. Dinner had started normally enough. A full table. My older brother bragging about his promotion. My younger sister scrolling on her phone between bites. My father pretending not to hear the tension already brewing. And me, the outsider child, home for the first time in 2 years. The air already felt heavy. My mother had spent the entire afternoon making sure everything looked perfect. The plates, the glasses, the food, the image, everything except the family itself. I came home because my father asked me to. He said Mom missed me. He said the family wasn't the same without me. He said this dinner was a chance to reconnect. But when I walked through the door, Mom barely looked at me. She just said, "You're late," even though I was, and Dad whispered, "Just ignore it, she's nervous." Nervous was an excuse I had heard my entire life. Dinner began with small talk, the kind that tastes stale the moment it leaves someone's mouth. I answered politely, but every few sentences Mom interrupted with a sigh or a correction. "Don't slouch. Don't talk with your hands. Don't bring up your creative hobbies." Creative hobbies, that's what she called my career. She said it like the words themselves were dirty. My brother asked, "So, you still doing that video thing?" He knew exactly what I did. He just wanted to say it like it was beneath him. Mom smiled approvingly at his tone. "It's not a real job," she added. "It's unstable. It's embarrassing. People talk, you know." I breathed slowly. I had promised myself I wouldn't react, not this time. My sister finally looked up from her phone. "Mom, leave them alone." Mom glared at her. "I'm just stating facts. The world is hard. They need to grow up." The room went quiet, and for a moment I thought that would be the end of it. But then my father asked the question that started everything. "So, how is work going?" I smiled gently. "Actually, really well. I signed a new contract last month." Mom cut in. "A contract for what? Posting videos? That's not a career." My father tried to defend me. "It's more than that, honey. They're doing great." Mom snapped. "You're enabling delusion." My chest tightened, but I held my posture. I'm not delusional, I'm successful." She laughed, a small, sharp laugh that didn't reach her eyes. "Successful people don't come crawling back home." The room froze, my brother hid a smirk, my sister looked horrified. My father whispered, "Please, not now." But Mom wasn't done. She leaned forward, eyes fixed on me like I was something she needed to scrape off her shoe. "This family has standards," she said, "and you don't belong here anymore." I heard my heartbeat in my ears. Years of trying. Years of shrinking myself, years of hoping she'd see me, love me, accept me, and then something inside me just stopped. I smiled, slowly, calmly. The smile wasn't out of happiness. It was the smile of someone finally waking up. Mom frowned. "What are you smiling for?" I sat up straighter. "Because I finally understand." She scoffed. "Understand what?" "That you don't get to decide where I belong." Her face tightened with anger. "I'm your mother." "Yes," I said softly. But being a mother and acting like one are two different things. My sister inhaled sharply. My brother muttered, "Here we go." Mom pointed her fork at me like a weapon. "Don't you dare talk to me like that." I nodded. "Then don't talk to me like I'm nothing." She slammed the fork down. "I raised you." "No," I said. "You controlled me, and there's a difference." My father whispered my name in warning. I didn't respond. I wasn't afraid anymore. Mom rose from her chair. "If you walk out that door tonight, don't come back." And for the first time in my life, I felt free. I stood, calm, steady. "Then I guess this is goodbye." My sister stood too. "I'm going with them." Mom turned pale. "Sit down." My sister stayed standing. "No, I'm tired of pretending this is normal." My brother looked confused. "What's wrong with you two?" My sister snapped. "You mean besides the constant judgment, the emotional manipulation?" "The way Mom treats them like a failure because they didn't choose the life she wanted?" He glared at her. "Mom just wants what's best." "No," my sister said. "Mom wants control." The silence was suffocating. Mom looked between us, shocked, betrayed, furious. "You're all ungrateful." My father tried to touch her arm. "Honey," she pulled away. "Don't." I looked at him gently. "Dad, you don't have to stay in this." He looked at me with tired eyes. "I know." My sister grabbed her bag. I picked up mine. My brother just stared like his world had tilted. Mom's voice trembled with rage. "If you leave, don't expect this family to be here when you come crawling back." I took a deep breath. If this is what family looks like, then losing it isn't a loss. My sister whispered, "Let's go." We walked toward the door. My mother's voice cracked behind us. "You're making a mistake." I paused at the doorway. "No, Mom, I'm finally doing what I should have done years ago." We stepped outside. The air felt lighter. My sister's shoulders slumped with relief. "I thought you'd never stand up to her," she said. I smiled softly. "I thought so too." We walked to my car in silence, the kind of silence that comes after a storm breaks something open. My sister wiped her eyes with the sleeve of her sweater. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I shook my head. "You didn't do anything wrong." "I didn't stand up sooner," she said, voice cracking. "I watched her tear you down for years." I sighed softly. "We all learned to survive her in different ways." She nodded, staring at the ground. "Survival shouldn't feel like loyalty." That line hit me hard. I opened the car door for her. She slipped inside, hugging her knees. As I got in on my side, she whispered, "Do you think Dad is okay?" I swallowed the lump in my throat. "He's lived in her shadow for so long he probably doesn't know what sunlight feels like anymore." "Do you think he'll leave her?" she asked. "I don't know," I said truthfully. "But maybe." Maybe tonight was the first time he realized he could. We sat there for a moment longer until I asked, "Do you want to go home, or do you want to come with me?" She looked up. "I want to come with you." We drove through the quiet streets, the soft glow of streetlights passing like memories. My sister finally leaned back and whispered, "You know she hates your success, right?" I raised an eyebrow. "Hates it?" She nodded. "Because she can't control it. You built something you love." Something she didn't choose for you. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. "Yeah, I knew." "I didn't," she admitted. "Not until tonight." Silence settled between us again, but it wasn't heavy anymore. It was healing. When we reached my apartment, she looked around like she was seeing freedom for the first time. "It's peaceful here," she said. "Yeah," I replied. "It's mine." She walked to the couch and sank into it with a sigh. "Can I stay tonight?" she asked. I nodded instantly. "Stay as long as you need." The next morning, I woke to the smell of coffee. She was already up, wrapped in one of my blankets, scrolling through her phone. "Morning," she said softly. "Morning." She handed me a mug. "Mom called me 12 times." I blinked. 12. She left 4 voicemails. "Want to hear them?" I shook my head. "Not yet," she smirked. "Good, because I deleted them." I couldn't help but laugh. "You what?" "I'm done being her messenger." She grew serious. She also texted Dad nonstop. "What did he say?" "Nothing. He turned his phone off." That surprised me. My father barely ever pushed back. "Good for him," I whispered. My sister climbed onto the couch. "What do we do now?" I sipped my coffee. "Live." Around noon, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number, but I recognized it immediately. It was my mother. The message read, "You should be ashamed. You embarrassed this family. You will ruin your sister. Fix this before it's too late." My sister looked over my shoulder. "Block her." I hesitated, not out of fear, out of habit. Then I pressed block. My sister exhaled. That felt good. Later that afternoon, Dad texted me. "Can we talk?" I showed my sister. She nodded. "Call him." I did. His voice was quiet, tired. "Hey, hi Dad, where are you two?" "Safe," I said. "Together," he exhaled. "Good." There was a long pause. Then he said, "I'm proud of you for standing up to her." The words hit harder than I expected. "Thank you," I whispered. "I'm sorry I didn't protect you more when you were younger," he added. My throat tightened. "You did what you could." "It wasn't enough," he said, "but I want to do better. I want to change things." My sister leaned close to the phone. "Dad, we want you in our lives, but we can't keep pretending everything is fine." He sighed. "I know, and I'm ready to stop pretending." There was a quiet strength in his voice I hadn't heard before. "I'll come see you both tonight," he said, "if that's okay." "Of course," I replied. When evening came, Dad showed up at my apartment with 2 bags. One was his clothes, the other was takeout from our favorite restaurant. My sister opened the door and hugged him immediately. His shoulders shook as he held her. When he saw me, his eyes softened. "You look stronger," he said. "I feel stronger." We sat down to eat, the 3 of us together for the first time without Mom's shadow looming over us. Dad picked at his food before saying, "She's angry." "We know," I said, "but she'll calm down," he added. My sister shook her head. "Dad, calming down isn't the same as changing." He looked at her, then at me. "I know," he sighed deeply. "I've spent 20 years trying to keep peace, but I didn't realize peace built on fear isn't peace at all." My chest tightened at that. Dad continued, "I don't know what the future looks like, but I know I want to be part of yours." I smiled. "We want that too." My sister nodded. "We're starting over," she said. "Together." We spent the evening talking, laughing, sharing stories we were never allowed to talk about at home. It felt strange and comforting all at once, like we were building something real for the first time. When it got late, Dad said he'd sleep on the couch. My sister insisted on taking the floor. I grabbed blankets and pillows until the living room looked like a small fort. As I turned off the lights, Dad said softly, "I'm sorry for everything you went through." I placed a hand on his shoulder. "We're healing now, that's what matters." Before going to bed, my sister whispered, "This feels like a family." And for the first time in my life, I agreed. The next morning, sunlight filled the apartment, warm and soft. Dad was already awake, sitting quietly on the balcony with a cup of tea. My sister joined him, curling up beside him with her blanket. I stepped outside too, leaning against the railing. For a moment we didn't speak, we just breathed. It felt peaceful in a way I wasn't used to. Dad finally broke the silence. "Your mother called me 27 times last night," my sister groaned. "Of course she did," I asked. "Did you answer?" He shook his head. "Not yet." "Are you going to?" He thought for a long moment. "I will, but not to fight, to set boundaries." My sister smiled softly. "About time someone did." He took a slow breath. "I realized something after last night. I've spent years trying to keep her calm so the house wouldn't fall apart. But in doing that, I let my children fall apart instead." My chest tightened. He continued, "You deserved better, both of you." My sister wiped her eyes. "Dad, you're trying now, that matters." We spent the morning cooking breakfast together, pancakes, eggs, the works. We joked, teased each other, spilled things, burned things, and laughed until our stomachs hurt. It felt natural. It felt like a childhood we never had. Then, in the middle of breakfast, my blocked number notifications pinged. Mom had created new accounts, new numbers, new messages, all saying the same things. "Come home. Fix this. You're ruining the family. You're poisoning your sister. You're manipulating your father." My sister grabbed the phone and tossed it onto the couch. "She's spiraling," she said. "Yeah," I replied, "but spiraling isn't our responsibility." Dad nodded firmly. "She needs help, professional help, but she refuses to see it." My sister asked, "Are you going back home today?" Dad looked down at his tea. "No." That one word carried 20 years of weight. "I'm staying with your aunt for a while," he said. "Somewhere calm, somewhere I can think." Relief washed over my sister's face. "I'm proud of you," she said. Dad laughed softly. "You two are the strong ones, I'm just finally catching up." In the afternoon, we took a walk through a nearby park. Birds chirped. Kids ran around. The world felt normal. Something we weren't used to. My sister swung her arms playfully. "I forgot people could just enjoy things," she said. "Yeah," I laughed. "Turns out freedom feels like fresh air." Dad stopped walking, looking at us with emotion in his eyes. "I want you both to know something," he said. "Your mother's behavior, it's not your fault. Her anger is not your burden. You didn't break this family." My throat tightened as he continued, "You survived it." My sister whispered, "We're still surviving." He placed a hand on each of our shoulders. "Not surviving, healing." We returned to the apartment later that day. Dad packed his bag slowly, almost reverently, like he was peeling an old life off his skin. My sister helped him fold a few shirts. When he zipped the last bag, he stood up straight, taller somehow, lighter. "I'll call you both tonight," he promised. "And I'll be okay." My sister hugged him so tightly he laughed. When it was my turn, he pulled me close and whispered, "Thank you for waking us up." I swallowed thickly. "Thank you for choosing us." He squeezed my shoulders one last time and left. The apartment felt quiet after he was gone. My sister sat cross-legged on the couch. "Do you think Mom will calm down?" she asked. "Maybe," I said, "but it's not our job to make her." She nodded slowly. "You know," she added, "I always thought you leaving home was selfish." I raised an eyebrow. "Selfish?" She nodded. "That's what Mom told us, that you abandoned us, that you didn't care." I stared at her for a long moment. "And you believed her?" She shrugged weakly. "We were kids. She controlled everything we thought." She leaned her head on her knees. "But last night I finally understood. You didn't leave us, you escaped." I sat beside her. "I never wanted to leave you and Dad behind, I just couldn't survive there anymore." She nodded through tears. "I get it now, and I'm glad you left, if you hadn't." I don't think I'd have realized how unhealthy it all was. I wrapped an arm around her. "We're out now, that's what matters," she sniffed. "What if she never forgives us?" I smiled sadly. "Forgiveness is only important when the person giving it is healthy enough to mean it." My sister exhaled shakily. "So what do we do now?" I looked around my cozy living room, my tiny kitchen, my little world I had built piece by piece. "We build something new," she smiled. "Together, together." Hours later, after my sister fell asleep on the couch, I stepped outside onto the balcony. The city lights shimmered below. My phone buzzed again with another unknown number. I silenced it without looking. I leaned on the railing and breathed in the cool air. For the first time in years, I felt whole. Not because the pain was gone, but because I finally stopped pretending I deserved it. And that realization settled into my bones like truth. Behind me, my sister murmured in her sleep. I looked at her and smiled. We weren't broken, we were rebuilding. And the beautiful thing about rebuilding is that you get to choose the foundation this time. The following week was strangely peaceful. My sister settled into a routine at my place, helping with chores, studying, and taking long naps she said she never got at home. I worked on my projects, my deadlines, my videos, and every time she watched me edit, she smiled like she was finally seeing what my life really looked like. Not chaos. Not irresponsibility, just work I loved. Dad called every night. His voice grew clearer each day, as if stepping away from Mom had freed parts of him he didn't realize were trapped. He told us he was eating better, sleeping better, thinking better, and for once he wasn't walking on eggshells. "It's quiet," he said one evening. "A good quiet." My sister nodded, listening through the speaker. "You deserve that kind of quiet, Dad," he chuckled softly. "I think we all do." But even with all the healing happening around us, a part of me braced for impact. Peace never lasted long in our family, and it didn't take long for the storm to find us. It started with a message from my aunt: "She's on her way to your place." My stomach dropped. My sister looked up immediately. "Mom," I nodded. She stood, fear flashing across her face. "We can't let her in." "We won't." I locked the doors, closed the windows, pulled the curtains. My hands trembled slightly, not from fear of confrontation, but fear of losing the progress we'd made. 10 minutes later, there was pounding on the door. Not knocking, pounding. My sister flinched. "Ignore it," I whispered. The pounding grew louder, then her voice cut through the walls. "Open this door right now, you think you can run from me?" My sister covered her mouth, shaking. I placed a hand on her back. "She can't hurt us, not anymore." But she kept shouting, accusing, demanding, threatening. "You stole your sister from me? You brainwashed your father? You're destroying this family," my sister whispered. "She's losing control." "She already lost it," I said quietly. After another minute, the shouting stopped. The hallway fell silent. I walked to the peephole. She was still there, breathing hard, her eyes wild and desperate. Not angry, panicked. Terrified of losing the control she had gripped for years. That realization didn't make it easier, but it did make it clearer. She banged the door one last time. "If you don't open this door, don't expect me at your wedding. Don't expect me when you have kids. Don't expect me in your life at all." My sister whispered. "Why does she act like love is a weapon?" I exhaled. "Because that's the only way she knows how to use it." 5 minutes later, she left. The hallway returned to its usual quiet hum, but something inside us remained shaken. My sister sank onto the couch. "She'll never change." "No," I said. "She won't." "So what now?" she asked softly. I sat beside her. "Now we choose ourselves." For the first time, she didn't argue. Later that evening, Dad arrived at the apartment. He looked exhausted, his expression drawn, his voice heavy. "She came to my sister's house screaming," he said, "blaming everyone, accusing everyone." I nodded. "She came here too," my sister added. "She threatened us." Dad rubbed his forehead. "I'm so sorry, she's not well." "We know," I said. "But she won't get help," my sister whispered. He lowered himself onto the couch. "I talked to her, tried to reason with her, tried to calm her down." "Did it help?" my sister asked. He shook his head. "She doesn't want to calm down, she wants control back." He looked at us with guilt in his eyes. "I should have left years ago." My sister reached for his hand. "You're here now, that's what matters." Dad's eyes softened. "You two are the only reason I found the courage." I swallowed. "You deserve a life that isn't ruled by fear." He nodded, eyes misting. "So do you?" We spent the evening in quiet conversation. Dad told us he rented a small apartment near his sister's home. "It's not much," he said, "but it's mine." My sister smiled. "That's more than we ever had growing up." He nodded slowly. "I want to rebuild things with you both, at your pace, your terms." My chest warmed. "We want that too." That night, after Dad left, my sister turned to me. "Do you think Mom will ever realize what she's losing?" I leaned against the balcony railing. "Maybe, but realization doesn't always lead to change." My sister sighed. "It's weird, I thought I'd feel guilty leaving her behind." "Do you?" "No," she said softly. "I feel relieved." We stood outside, the city humming beneath us, and for the first time since childhood, I felt like the world wasn't something pressing down on us. It was something opening up. My sister wrapped herself in her blanket. "We're really doing this, aren't we?" "Doing what?" I asked. "Breaking the cycle," I smiled. "Yeah, we are." Inside the apartment, the warmth felt different. Not borrowed, not conditional, not forced. Real, ours, and somewhere deep inside I sensed that this messy, painful, liberating chapter wasn't the end of something. It was the beginning of everything we were meant to become. Days passed, and every one of them felt like another step away from the world we grew up in. My sister settled comfortably into the rhythm of our new life. She laughed more, slept more, breathed more freely. Dad visited often, sometimes bringing groceries, sometimes bringing stories, sometimes bringing nothing but himself, and that was enough. But Mom didn't disappear. She sent long messages to Dad accusing him of betrayal. She left voicemails for my sister alternating between crying and screaming. When she realized I had blocked every number she tried, she emailed me instead. Long paragraphs about disappointment, shame, loyalty, family, how I had twisted everything, how I owed her an apology, how none of this was her fault. For the first time in my life, her words didn't land. They slid off like water. They weren't truth. They were echoes of a world I no longer lived in. One evening, my sister and I sat together on the couch eating cheap takeout. She scrolled through her phone and then paused. She emailed me again, she whispered. I put down my fork. You want to read it? No, she said firmly. I want to delete it. She tapped the screen. Just like that, the message and the power it once had vanished. She leaned against me. Do you ever think she'll change? I thought for a long moment. I think she might realize what she lost, but realization isn't healing. Healing requires humility, and she's never let herself be vulnerable. My sister nodded, eyes soft with sadness but not regret. Then we keep moving forward, she said. Exactly. Weeks turned into months. My sister began therapy and started rebuilding her confidence piece by piece. Dad slowly relearned how to live without fear. He joined a support group. He started reading again. He took morning walks. He cooked food the way he liked instead of the way Mom demanded. He seemed lighter, younger, more himself than I had ever seen. One afternoon, Dad asked if we wanted to meet him at a small cafe. When we arrived, he was sitting at a corner table with 2 cups of tea already waiting. I want to talk to you both about something, he said. His hands trembled slightly, not from fear but from anticipation. I've spoken to a lawyer. My sister and I exchanged a look. A lawyer? I asked gently. He nodded. I'm filing for separation. My sister gasped quietly, covering her mouth with her hands. I reached across the table and held his hand. Are you sure? He nodded, stronger this time. I spent years telling myself things would improve, but all that did was trap us deeper in the chaos. I'm choosing peace. My sister wiped her eyes. I'm proud of you, Dad. He smiled, tears gathering. I'm proud of you both. You showed me that love isn't supposed to feel like fear. He exhaled shakily. I'm ready to start over. For the first time, I saw in his eyes the same transformation I felt inside myself, freedom, not the loud, dramatic kind. The quiet, steady kind that grows slowly until it fills everything. We spent the rest of the afternoon talking about practical things, housing, finances, plans, and emotional things, memory, grief, hope, and underneath it all, a shared understanding. We weren't losing a family. We were rebuilding one. As the weeks passed, something surprising happened. The pain didn't vanish, but it didn't consume us either. It changed shape, became softer, became a reminder of how far we had come. My sister continued therapy. Dad finalized his separation agreement. I kept creating, working, building a life that finally felt like mine. One evening, I found my sister sitting on the balcony staring at the sunset. What are you thinking about? I asked. She smiled faintly. About how everything used to feel impossible, and now, she gestured toward the fading sky. Now it feels like it's just beginning. I sat beside her, letting the silence settle. The air was cool. The world felt open. She leaned her head on my shoulder. Do you ever miss her? She asked quietly. I breathed slowly. I miss the version of her I hoped she could be, but I don't miss the pain. She nodded. Me too. We watched the sky shift from gold to pink to deep, calm blue, a sky that didn't demand anything from us. A sky that simply existed. And for the first time in our lives, we were allowed to simply exist with it. As the last light faded, my sister whispered, we're really free now, aren't we? I smiled gently. Yeah, we are. And in that moment, sitting on that balcony with the person who survived it all with me, I realized something important. Freedom doesn't start when you leave the place that hurt you. It starts when you finally believe you deserve better. We believed it now. And that changed everything.